Welcome to the Courtroom Club. Okay, let's unpack this. Here at Jonker Vorster Attorneys, we field a lot of questions about sectional title.
We certainly do.
And one that consistently pops up, especially thinking ahead to 2025, is about levies.
hmm
Specifically, do your monthly levies cover the water and electricity you use inside your own unit?
It's a really common point of confusion, isn't it?
Totally. For new owners, even for people who've been in a scheme for years.
Yeah.
So our goal today is really to dive deep into this. We want to clarify what those levies are actually for.
Right. And crucially, where your individual utility costs, like water and electricity, usually fit into the picture.
Exactly. And also how levies differ from, say, municipal rates or those utility bills everyone gets.
It's quite remarkable how often that specific question comes up. It
Yeah,
really highlights, well, the need to understand how sexual title finances work.
definitely.
So maybe let's start right at the beginning. What are sectional title levies?
Good starting point. Well, in essence, levies are just those regular monthly payments that every owner in a sectional title scheme contributes. They pay it to the body corporate.
Okay.
Think of it like you're part of this shared community, right?
hmm
And these levies are your share of the costs to maintain and operate all the communal bits of that community.
Making sure everything runs smoothly.
Yeah, and that the whole complex, the collective asset, keeps its value.
Precisely. And that word communal is absolutely key here.
Right.
These levies, they aren't really for what goes on inside your individual unit. They're for everything you share with all the other owners.
So what sort of expenses are we typically talking about then? What do levies usually cover?
Okay, so when you pay that levy, you're chipping in for the upkeep and repair of all those shared areas.
Like the gardens.
Exactly. Keeping the gardens looking good, making sure the pool is clean and usable, keeping walkways safe,
Security gates working.
security gates working reliably. Yep. Then a big chunk usually goes towards the building insurance.
Ah, insurance.
Yes, but importantly, that's generally for the structure itself, the physical building.
Mm.
It usually doesn't cover your personal stuff, like your furniture or electronics inside your unit.
That's a really important distinction. People miss that sometimes.
They do. Then you've got security costs. That could be guards on site, maintaining the access control systems, maybe CCTV cameras.
Okay.
Now, here's a detail that sometimes causes a bit of, well, head scratching. Levies often do include the water and electricity for these common areas.
Right, so like lights in the corridors.
Exactly.
Right.
Or the water used for the shared garden irrigation system, things like that.
Okay, makes sense.
And finally, levies cover the necessary management and admin costs running the body corporate, maybe paying a managing agent, and contributions to what's called a reserve fund.
The reserve fund? That's like the savings account for big projects, right?
That's a great way to put it. It's a crucial savings account, really. It's there to handle those larger, less frequent, but, inevitable expenses.
Like repainting the whole complex.
Repainting, maybe replacing a lift or fixing the pool pump down the line, things that cost a fair bit.
And underfunding that? Probably not a good idea.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
It's a bit like skipping your car maintenance, isn't it? Seems like saving money now, but you could be setting yourself up for much bigger headaches later.
Yeah, okay. So that gives a really clear picture of the collective stuff. Now let's zoom right back in on the main question.
The water and electricity inside your own four walls.
Exactly. Is that usually part of the levy?
And the general answer, in the vast majority of schemes we see at the firm, is that
No. Okay.
your levies typically do not include the cost for the water and electricity you use within your own unit.
Right. So that's usually considered your personal usage.
Correct. And because it's personal, you as the owner, or maybe your tenant if you're renting it out, will typically be billed for it separately. You pay for it directly.
Okay, that seems straightforward enough as a general rule, but, property law often has wrinkles. Are there exceptions?
Yes, there can be. As you say, it's not always black and white. You sometimes find schemes that handle utilities a bit more collectively.
How does that work?
Well, sometimes a scheme might have arranged to buy water and electricity in bulk for the whole complex.
Ah, bulk buying. Try and get a better rate, maybe?
That's usually the idea, yes. By buying in larger quantities, the body corporate hopes they can negotiate a slightly better price.
Okay, so if they buy in bulk, how does that cost get back to the individual owners?
Good question. It needs to be distributed somehow. And the way that happens can vary quite a bit.
Right.
Sometimes a portion of that bulk cost might actually be factored into your monthly levy amount.
Ah, okay. So it could be in the levy in that case.
It could be, or Alternatively, it might still be charged separately, but based on each unit's actual consumption,
Measured how?
usually through individual meters, sometimes called submeters, installed for each unit, even though the main supply is bulk.
I see. So even with bulk buying, you might still pay based on your usage, just maybe billed via the body corporate instead of the municipality.
Precisely. Which brings us nicely to the sort of practical ways you might actually see water and electricity billed in a sectional title scheme.
Hmm.
What are the common setups?
Okay, yeah, let's cover those. One method that's become really common is prepaid water and electricity.
The voucher system.
Exactly. You buy vouchers, like for your phone, load them onto your meter, and your usage gets deducted. Gives you direct control, which many people like.
Very direct control over spending, yeah.
Then, as we just discussed, there's the bulk purchasing scenario.
Right, where the body corporate buys it all.
And like we said, those costs might end up partly in your levy, or they could be billed back to you separately, probably based on your own meter reading.
Okay, what else?
Another common setup is getting separate bills directly from the local municipality for your own water and electricity.
So just like a freestanding house owner might get.
Pretty much. This usually happens when each unit has its own separate municipal meter that the council can read directly.
Right, makes sense.
And just to circle back, because it's important, even if you're paying separately for your own unit's usage, whether prepaid or municipal bill.
Your levy still covers the common area utilities.
Exactly. The lights in the parking garage, the power for the electric fence, the water for the communal gardens, that's still part of the levy payment.
Got it. So with all these different ways it could work,
Mm-hmm.
what practical steps can someone take? If you're an owner, or maybe thinking of buying into a scheme, how do you find out exactly what your specific levies cover for water and electricity?
That's the key question, isn't it? Getting that clarity. Well, the first and often the easiest place to look is your monthly levy statement.
Okay, what should you look for?
It should ideally give you a breakdown of where your money is going. Look carefully for any line items mentioning utilities, water, or electricity.
See if it specifies common areas or individual.
Exactly. Now, if you're a new owner or buying, your purchase agreement is another really important document. Check that thoroughly.
Sometimes the details are spelled out in the sale agreement.
Sometimes, yes. But honestly, the most direct and probably the most reliable way, just ask.
Ask who?
Contact the managing agent for the complex or get in touch with the body corporate trustees directly. They absolutely should be able to tell you definitively what's included in your scheme's levies.
Don't rely on assumptions.
Never assume. And one last clue. Look at your own bills. Are you getting separate electricity and water bills in your name, either from the municipality or a prepaid company? If you are, that's a pretty strong sign that those costs are not part of your levy.
Right. It's also really vital, I think, to understand how levies fit into the bigger picture of property costs. People often get levies, rates, and utility bills mixed up.
Oh, absolutely. Can we just quickly clarify the difference between those three?
Yes, let's break that down simply. So, levies, like we've been saying.
Paid to the body corporate.
Correct. And they cover the shared stuff. Common property upkeep, security, building insurance, shared utilities, the collective things.
Okay. Then municipal rates.
Rates go to your local municipality. That's basically your property tax.
And what does that pay for?
It funds essential city services, things like refuse removal, the sewage system, maintaining local roads and infrastructure, parks, libraries. It's based on your property's valuation.
Got it. Rates, municipal services tax. And the last one,
Your individual utility bills for water and electricity.
the ones we've been focusing on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In most cases, you pay these either directly to the municipality or maybe a prepaid provider.
Yep.
And they cover your personal consumption inside your unit.
So just to recap, levies for the complex's shared costs, rates for city services, utility bills for your own usage.
That's a perfect summary. Levies, shared environment. Rates, city contribution. Utilities, personal use.
Brilliant. Now, in our practice here at Jonker Vorster Attorneys, we obviously deal with these levy questions a lot. Maybe we can quickly tackle a few common FAQs, just quick answers, not getting too bogged down in legal details for each one.
Good idea. Let's run through some common ones.
Okay, first one, back to the core. Do levies include individual water and electricity?
Generally, no. But always, always check your specific scheme's rules.
How do you find out exactly what is covered by your levy?
Check your levy statement. Check your purchase agreement if you're new. Or, best bet, just ask the managing agent or the body corporate.
What happens if you just don't pay your levies.
Well, that's not advisable. The body corporate can take legal action against you. There can be penalties, interest, and ultimately even a judgment against your property.
Right. Can the body corporate cut off your electricity if you owe levies?
Ah, that's a complex one. It's not usually straightforward. They generally can't just flip a switch arbitrarily. There are specific legal procedures they must follow, often involving court orders. It's not a simple yes or no.
Okay, important distinction. How are levies actually calculated? Is it random?
Definitely not random. They're based on the body corporate's approved budget for the year, all the anticipated expenses. Then that total cost is divided amongst the owners, usually based on their participation quota or PQ, which often relate to the size of their unit.
Right, the PQ. Do tenants, people renting, pay levies?
Generally, no. Levies are the owner's responsibility. Of course, the owner probably factors that cost into the rent they charge the tenant.
Actually. Okay, what about special levies? Are they different?
Yes. Normal levies cover the planned, budgeted annual costs. A special levy is usually a one-off charge raised when there's a large, unexpected, or unbudgeted expense that the reserve fund can't cover, like maybe emergency roof repairs after a storm.
Okay, so an extra unforeseen charge. And last one, can your levy amount change?
Oh, absolutely. Levies are typically reviewed and adjusted every year at the body corporate's annual general meeting based on the new budget. So they can go up, sometimes down, but usually up with inflation and cost.
Right, makes sense. That's a really helpful quickfire round. So, just to wrap things up today, what's the main thing you want listeners to take away about levies and utilities in sectional title?
I think the key message is this. While your levies are absolutely vital for covering those essential shared costs in your complex.
The pool, the security, the common lights.
Exactly. They typically do not cover the water and electricity you personally use inside your own unit.
But there can be exceptions.
But there can be variations, depending on how your specific scheme handles utilities prepaid, bulk buying, direct municipal bills. So it's absolutely essential to get clear on your own situation.
Don't just assume.
Don't assume. Do the checks we talked about. Look at your statements. Ask the managing agent or trustees. Understand your specific setup
Because understanding it helps with budgeting, avoid surprises.
and prevents potential legal headaches down the road. Clarity is key.
Absolutely. And of course, if you do find yourself facing uncertainties or maybe even disputes about levies or need help with any property law matter,
Then please reach out to us here at Jonker Vorster Attorneys. Our team is here to provide clear, expert legal guidance and support.
definitely. And on that note, maybe a final thought for you, our listener, to mull over.
Okay.
Considering the different billing methods we touched on today, bulk buying versus individual meters, what do you think are the real pros and cons for a sectional title scheme in choosing one approach over the other?
That's a good one. Lots to weigh up there in terms of cost, admin, fairness.
Exactly. Something to think about as we navigate the world of communal property ownership.